Welcome to Play the Man Podcast, a podcast seeking to build sturdy men in a wobbly world.
Welcome back to the Play the Man Podcast. Today we're asking a simple question, since it's the first season, and that is, should women also listen to the Play the Man Podcast? I have my opinions. Shane, let's start with you.
No, boys only. We're gonna nail a sign outside the clubhouse.
He-Man Woman Haters Club comes to mind. You guys know what that's from? The Little Rascals. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
It's old. It's older than all of us.
Yeah.
The Little
I thought
Rascals.
you said you were 39.
I am, but I watch old stuff.
Yeah.
The He-Man Woman Haters Club. That's what their clubhouse was. It was pretty innocuous back then. You know, it wasn't considered they actually hated anybody. I don't think they were 6. So.
Yeah.
So should women listen to the play? Is there edification here? Is there help here, or is it mostly boring?
It's probably mostly boring.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of topics that we're going to be covering that would be helpful to women as well. And I think even when it's not necessarily a topic that's pertinent to a woman, when it's particularly even a men's topic, I think they might find it interesting as well.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our wives probably listen to What Have You, and I like to listen to What Have You as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun podcast to listen to and to hear what are women talking about.
Yeah.
And what is important to them. And I think even when it's about men's topics, I think women might enjoy knowing what are we talking about.
Yeah. You think anyone's going to weaponize it? Like, hey, you need to play the man, you know, like that kind of thing?
Well, it could be used that way too. It could be something you slide to your husband and be like, hey, maybe you should listen to this. So.
What do you think about Pete?
I'm going to make a risky assumption.
Okay.
And the assumption I'm going to make is Play the Man is important to men.
Yeah.
It's important to men of our church. And if you want to know what's important to your man, you will listen to Play the Man Podcast. All jokes aside, I agree with Shane. There's probably some topics that are not going to be very intriguing, maybe even boring. But there's certainly going to be topics that we're going to cover where I could definitely see women listening and benefiting. And I would welcome them. No He-Man Club here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. I think the idea is we're asking questions, right? And we're trying to unearth some ways of thinking around those questions because there's no answers.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like there's an answer per se. It's more of a, can we be holistic in how we think about this particular challenge or problem, and can we be more pragmatic or practical in how we apply faith here? So it's really more about rumination and questions, and that's what every marriage kind of is doing anyways, right? Is how do we look at this as a couple? How do we look at this decision as a couple? So yeah, it should be helpful.
I mean, imagine we had a topic. How does a Christian man truly love his wife? Ooh. You know, are women going to listen to that?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, and then make fun of us for being wrong.
Yeah, that's what I think mostly the outcomes are going to be. I think my wife is gracious to me, but, you know, not for every creative endeavor I have, you know? So, yeah, I think if we're encouraging, that's a big part of it. And then challenging. I think the idea is to challenge thinking, to deepen sort of application. Yeah. So I think that's always helpful.
I mean, I found myself drawn into it. I don't know their names, but my wife Kathy always listens to the Wilson Daughters.
Yeah, that's the
What Have You
podcast.
Yeah, the What Have You podcast.
Yeah.
So we're in the kitchen, we're working together, we're getting dinner going. I'm sipping a glass of wine, and I hear these two women just talking, and I literally thought it was like a 3-way conference phone call. I'm like, what's going on? This is the first time I heard about it, and then I was just drawn into it. But they're talking about things that women would be interested in, but from a Christian perspective, how we engage the world and culture. And sure enough, I'm drawn into it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now that we're saying this all out loud, is I don't think we can. That podcast as an example. I struggle to be able to recreate that. I think what they have is kind of a thing where they're sisters, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they're just being sisters together on the podcast.
Yeah, it's almost like twins, like their brains are connected, and they're just they're just stumbling over each other. They can't get it all out in time.
They might be talking about something innocuous for 15 minutes, but then they get into the topic.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if our wives are comparing us to that podcast,
Yeah.
that's on the rough side.
Well, we haven't lived with each other for our entire lives,
Right.
like thinking each other's thoughts after each other. So
Yeah, I
this
mean,
it's not going to flow quite like that. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any reasons they don't want to listen to the podcast? Any reasons they should stay away?
No, there's nothing to hide here.
All right. All right, cool. So the takeaway here is all parties invited. We would love to have men listen to it. We'd love to have women listen to it. And at the end of the day, we're seeking to encourage and to challenge and to be transparent.
yeah.
So,
Well, I think we even talked about we'd like to have women on it. Even I think one of our topics was even having, mothers on here as well. And
Yeah.
I think even one of our topics was like
rowdy boys.
rowdy boys. Like
right.
how do you raise rowdy boys, and getting that from a woman's perspective as well. And so I think there will be even particular episodes maybe that will be really interesting to women, because I think some women will want to know, how do you raise rowdy
Yeah.
boys,
Yeah.
And then I think there's other things that are just more general, as we talk about spiritual disciplines, as we talk about maybe current events and cultural engagement, and how we think as Christians. That's going to be applicable to men and women alike. And so
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of things that they would enjoy.
We're tailored towards men, but we have a vested interest in promoting sturdy men and women in a wobbly world.
Yeah.
The two go together.
Yeah. Well said.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Play the Man podcast. Stay sturdy, friends.